and gentlemen, we've now heard what's happening in MaaS out there now, transportable. MaaS providers are providing right now gives us a chance to take these experts. If they would like to join us over on the front, we have questions to find out a little more, find out how you can work with them, elaborate maybe. We've got 15 minutes. And the hands are going up straight away. Take 3 at a time again.
Hello, Rafael Sakaya from the Digital. This question is from Martin. I like the idea of open platforms. I'd like to know your opinion about many open platforms. It's not just one single open platform. What's your view on joining the multiple open platforms, or even thinking about outside MaaS? How can we interface MaaS systems with other platforms, with other verticals, with other servers?
Charles Bailey from Travel Spirit. Again, I suppose a question to the wide group of the panel, but particularly Khan. How do you think cities should engage in terms of multiple MaaS operators? Although we're not at that point yet. On what basis, if there's any, do you think they should be selected? Would that help?
I observe, looking at Isuka from Trust Hub, I observe when I look at these platforms that users choose a mode of transport based on price and availability. But we're much more complex human beings than that when we choose transport for other reasons. What ability do you see for the transport providers to build one-to-one personalised relationships with users and platforms?
One more question.
Hi, yeah, Jenny Milne, very small person at the back here. A lot of today is focused on urban-centric solutions. I'm sitting here as a champion of rural connectivity. Much of what's been talked about today, you can walk outside today and get a bus, get an Uber, get on a train. In rural areas, you're probably talking accents and north of the border here, that problem is massive. We do not have infrastructure, we have much less connectivity options, and that could be as simple as not having a bus or even having GPRS. I personally feel that MaaS is much more pervasive in a rural environment than urban, and I'm afraid not much has been talked today about that, to be honest, and I think that's something that we need to address. I'm waffling, but can you please address that for me?
Okay, thank you for very good questions. I'd like to start with the last one. I can imagine if you see all the figures, you want to focus as a MaaS provider on the big areas where a lot of people make a lot of movements. On our open platform, we have Flip and Go. And Flip and Go is a provider for the rural areas in the Netherlands. And they use MaaS, the MaaS platform, the MaaS IDs, the MaaS data, to arrange very local rides. And they do very well. So Flip and Go is a concept you could use in rural areas, and I'm happy to share it with you. There was a question about multiple MaaS providers. Sampo has a very good idea about it. There are 3 options, and maybe it's a good question for Kate.
So, at least there was a question regarding what cities should do and what about multiple operators. We believe cities should almost do nothing. At least they shouldn't spend money. It's all about changing the mindsets and become enablers for MaaS. Please don't put out tenders to start one MaaS operation in a city. You can do pilots for sure, but imagine back when Henry Ford started his business, if he had gone to the cities and said, should we do this new thing called car for your citizens, they would have stayed in Detroit forever. So please just open up, enable MaaS. There's 3 ways, as you said, for MaaS to evolve, we see three ways. One of them is winner takes all, and that means Google or Uber or somebody could try and come and dominate on the market. But we don't believe anybody can do it by themselves, because no one form of transportation really covers all people's needs. So it's actually a collaborative effort that's needed. But that's one option. The other option is the city option, where public transport or cities come and try to save the traffic, and become the only MaaS operator in an area. And don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think we've been trying public transportation for 100 years now, and people are still buying their cars. So I think we need to have a market-driven approach. And that's where we believe in actually open up the markets and allow all the operators, MaaS operators, to operate in your city, just like in telco. So you have several telco operators, not just one. That's the way forward. Well, yeah, so thank you. And one aspect of MaaS, and that's actually related to the rural areas, MaaS is not restricted to a city area. Because if I need to buy a car to travel outside of my city, we don't see that as a true MaaS. In fact, the interoperability that was discussed between applications and actually between cities, areas and countries needs to be in place. Again, the telco analogy is very true. When I traveled here this morning, I would have wanted to continue to use WIN here as well. That's how it should work in the future. So interoperability between areas, regions, countryside, city side, that's true MaaS.
Happy to address the one on kind of the relationships of customers and sort of the operators. We operate very much a market model, right, where we obviously operators are on our platform competing on price, but we also have a variety of filters and things that allow you to list whether you have car seats, whether you have there's like 15 or 20 different things. So I think in terms of the relationships of operators and customers moving forward, I think there's actually an opportunity to facilitate that interaction, because on our market approach, you're allowed to kind of compete against one another, not just on price and time, but also on kind of some of these more behavioral movements as well.
Cool. Just a couple of points. So I think the point about Scotland and underserved areas is absolutely correct. We're actually in discussions about how we can use our platform in some of those areas. I think sometimes actually the regulatory environment is a way of common sense in those. So linking into the point about what cities can do to encourage MaaS, is actually let's not restrict who wants the solution needs to be in regulation. Let's create a regulatory environment that encourages innovation, because then we can solve problems such as the underserved areas, and the next Uber or whatever can come up and innovate and come up with the right solution. I just think on the data point there about the customer experiences, maybe what you were saying about the data, because really that's the key for understanding how use whatever form of transport it is, when they use it, how they use it, the location. So actually, with that data, we can provide a really rich personalized experience, maybe without realizing as well. And then just finally, on the domination point, actually, firmly believe that we was just one part of the transport ecosystem. We're busiest when public transport is shut in the evenings. We're probably busiest on the roads where people can't cycle. And as we saw, that actually public transport to fuel our growth as well. So I do think it's really important to get the ecosystem.
More questions?
Hi there, Chris from ID. Forgive me, sir, I didn't catch your name. Mosio, gentleman. I was wondering, it was really interesting to hear you talk about the transportation stack in each different city, coming from a technology stack background, and sort of making that comparison. Given that you recognise that there's a different transportation stack in each different city, how much of Mosio's technology, when you deploy, do you reuse? Is the percentage of the technology that you've developed that you find yourself starting again from scratch to integrate with that specific transportation stack in a new city?
Yeah, Paul Confident from Ertico ITS Europe, Brussels. There are two things which I haven't really heard too much about today. The first is that I see MaaS as being quite powerful in driving the multi-purposing of the transport movements around the cities or rural areas. And that means that it's not just about people, perhaps, and almost everyone's just been talking about passengers, but it can be about not just freight, but shopping, medicines, prescriptions, everything else, other things that people travel for. And the other thing I haven't heard too much about is, again, not just the individual as the customer, but corporate entities like shops, and, supermarkets, leisure centers, medical facilities. These are people who, in a way, because they generate demand for movement, they also, especially companies with their company cars, can be a very powerful source, a powerful customer for a MaaS service. So I don't think it's just about individuals, and I don't think it's just about passenger transport. I think there's a lot of extra potential over there.
Matthew Clark from Stairs Clean. We've been talking about competition between MaaS operators, competition between public transport. No conversation about car manufacturers. There are some car manufacturers here today. There are obviously some tests and experiments involving car sharing and lots of work on autonomous vehicles. How do the panel see car manufacturers engaging in this space?
I'm happy to take the first one on Mozio specific in terms of integrations. So as I mentioned, we do work with over 2,800 ground transportation providers right now. And obviously we've learned a lot over 4 years. We are able to kind of take some of the proprietary stuff we've developed, but in general we prefer to plug directly into APIs places and issue those tickets. And from that standpoint, we more or less try to get out of the way. So obviously we have our platform and kind of our capability to sell tickets, but we try to leverage the back ends and kind of the existing frameworks of companies as much as possible to issue those tickets. And while we do have learnings and are able to go from place to place, and there's synergies from doing that, I would say it is still a big place specific. And that's why you haven't seen other players go into this space. You haven't seen like a kayak or Expedia go into the ground transportation space because it's hard to do all these integrations. It takes time and it's tedious, and the margins aren't there. So from that standpoint, we haven't had a ton of competition today in terms of people that have integrated that many companies around the world. I think we're in over 2,200 cities, I want to say. So it's a little bit of both in that regard.
I'd like to answer the question of to integrate commercial activities or even to avoid riots. The nice thing of a good MaaS platform is not only to organize transportation, to be a kind of switchboard between APIs. That's not what we are. We want to contextualize data. That means that if someone has the need for medicine and has to get them himself, if we could do our work well, we could see that maybe someone is on the way to pass the pharmacy and take the medicine with him and to deliver it at your home, so you don't have to make a ride. So that's something that is really coming from the data part. And the contextualizing of the data is very important. And the other thing that's very important is to use good technology to be able to do processing in motion. It means that to do the computing in memory with very strong technologies to know who's where, wants to go where, which patterns they have. And of course, there is always the data question. To who belongs the data? What are we going to do with privacy and stuff like that? Well, we see that privacy is nice to have, and I think it's very good to protect. But if we want to really benefit from this type of data exercises, it's very important to open up. It's very important to be honest what to do with the data, what can bring us. I think the part of, and that's what I heard today also, is immediately we are in this Pavlov reaction of okay, it's about data, so it's about me and we know everything about me. When it's put in the right context and when it's done on a good platform that's really trustworthy, your data can deliver enormous benefits to a lot of parties, cities, citizens, everyone.
Just a couple of thoughts first, also on the logistics element is, that's something that Uber's working heavily on. We've got two other products. We've got Eats and Rush. So Eats is food delivery, and Rush is logistics and last mile delivery for small business services. All runs on the same technology dispatch platform. Why I think it's important for MaaS is, let's say you've got a driver and they're waiting 10 minutes between a trip, a classic Uber trip. That's dead time, right? They're not making money. But if we can reduce that dead time by the fact that maybe they're picking up a parcel to take it across town, then they're making more money, they're busier, better utilised, we can lower the fares. And if you lower the fares, then it's more affordable to people. And more affordable, people use it, and the market becomes more efficient, more liquid, better for everyone. So that's our kind of point. To the OEM point, I think they're a critical player in the whole MaaS solution. Our recent electric vehicle pilot couldn't have been possible without Nissan and BYD, who are supporting us in that. Yes, I think it's really important component of this. Electric vehicle technology is coming on leaps and bounds. We need that investment in that R&D to make it.
I like to talk to, so I'll grab the mic. First of all, quickly, to be honest, I see MaaS as a services platform ecosystem business. First, we have to get people moving for sure, but it's all about customer experience. A scenario where I'm traveling in the morning to the airport, I'll grab an Uber, but I want my coffee hot and steaming waiting for me in the Uber, and I want to listen to Spotify on my way. And when I get to the airplane, I actually want the meal that I ordered beforehand. So I think this is going to be a platform of all kinds of services, logistics, small times logistics, all those services being enabled by a platform called MaaS. As regards to the OEMs, we are having very interesting discussions with a lot of them. They need to learn, that's what it's about. They realize the old roads don't exist, but we've seen the initiatives by OEMs, Ford, GM, all. So they are heavily investing into this and also eager to learn from players like us.
Thank you to our panel. Thank you to Martin Neskins, John McGinty, Fred Jones, and Clive Fitchin. We're now going to break for coffee. Back in 15 minutes.